The banishment. The verdict arrived with the cold precision of a guillotine blade. After 3 centuries of uneasy coexistence with the 57 species of the galactic Concordat, humanity's fate had been sealed. The massive holographic display in the United Earth Government's crisis chamber showed the final tally. 49 votes for excision, 7 abstentions, 1 vote against. Admiral Helena Kowalski watched the feed with narrowed eyes, her weathered face betraying no emotion. "So that's it then," she said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "They're really going through with it." Director General Marcus Wong nodded gravely. "Complete excision. All human colonies to be evacuated. Earth placed under quarantine. Any human vessels found in Concordat space after 30 standard days will be considered hostile and destroyed." The official reason for humanity's vanishment was technological recklessness. Humanity's rapid advances in neural augmentation, genetic modification, and quantum mechanics had frightened the older, more conservative species. What humanity viewed as necessary adaptation, the Concordat considered dangerous contamination. "They fear what they don't understand," said Dr. Sophia Chen, head of the Defense Science Division. Her calm demeanor belied the intensity in her eyes. "But they've miscalculated. They think they're pruning a troublesome branch. They don't realize they're scattering seeds." What the Concordat didn't know was that Earth's leadership had been preparing for this possibility for decades. Operation Diaspora had been developed in secret, a contingency plan so classified that fewer than 200 humans knew of its existence. "Initiate Phoenix Protocol," Wong commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "Alert all colonial governors. Evacuation Sequence Alpha." The next 27 days witnessed the greatest migration in human history. While the Concordat expected desperate pleas, chaotic evacuations, and possible armed resistance, they were met instead with an eerie efficiency that should have been their first warning. From the orbital shipyards of Mars to the ice mines of Europa, from the cloud cities of Venus to the remote outposts of the Kuiper Belt, humanity dismantled its civilization with surgical precision. Critical technologies weren't abandoned but meticulously preserved. Knowledge wasn't lost but transferred through quantum-encrypted channels to specialized archive ships. Dr. Chen stood in the central command hub beneath the Himalayas, monitoring the exodus. Massive displays showed the coordinated withdrawal from all 37 human colonies. "Status report," she demanded, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. 97% of critical personnel extracted, reported her assistant. 84% of essential technology secured. Genetic archives completely preserved. When the Concordat enforcement fleets arrived at the edge of the solar system on the 29th day, they found something unexpected. No resistance, no desperate last stands. The colonies were empty shells, stripped of anything valuable. Earth itself remained, its billions of inhabitants going about their lives under a new quarantine dome that would prevent them from leaving, but also prevent interference from outside. What the Concordat didn't detect were the thousands of stealth vessels slipping away through carefully calculated blind spots in their sensor networks. Ships that carried not just refugees, but the seeds of humanity's resurgence. Admiral Kowalski stood on the bridge of the carrier Prometheus, humanity's largest vessel and the unofficial flagship of the Exodus fleet. "All ships accounted for," her executive officer reported. "Ready to initiate final jump." Kowalski nodded, her gaze fixed on the tactical display showing the Concordat vessels encircling Earth. "They think they've caged us," she said softly. "They don't understand what we are." With a synchronized quantum pulse, the human fleet vanished from known space, leaving behind only encrypted echoes that would confuse Concordat sensors for days. 3 months later, in the uncharted regions beyond Concordat space, humanity began to rebuild. The rendezvous point was a trinary star system with abundant resources and no habitable planets, a region the space-faring species of the Concordat had dismissed as worthless. On the primary habitat vessel Genesis, the Leadership Council gathered to plan humanity's future. The massive habitat ring spun lazily around an artificial sun, housing over 2 million humans in its cavernous interior. "We need to establish self-sufficiency before expansion," argued Director Wong. "We can't risk discovery until we're strong enough." "Agreed," said Admiral Kowalski. "But we also need to push our technological advantages. The Concordat gave us a gift: freedom from their restrictive technology protocols." Dr. Chen's presentation silenced the debate. Her team had been working on technologies the Concordat had explicitly forbidden: adaptive nanotechnology, quantum consciousness interfaces, biological transmutation systems. "This isn't just about survival," she explained, her voice resonating through the chamber. "This is about evolution. Humanity has always adapted to its environment. Now we have the opportunity to adapt faster than any species has ever done before." The first experiments began on volunteer exploration teams. Nanoclusters that could rewrite human biology in response to environmental pressures. Neural implants that allowed direct interface with surrounding quantum fields. Genetic modifications that enabled survival in environments no human could naturally endure. On the frozen methane seas of a rogue planet designated Haven 1, Commander Eliam Beek's exploration team tested the first generation of environmental adaptation systems. As the team stepped onto the ice, their bodies began to change. Skin hardened against the extreme cold. Lungs restructured to process the thin atmosphere. Vision shifted to perceive radiation spectrums beyond normal human capability. "It's working," Mbeek reported, his voice transformed by vocal cords adapted to the planet's different atmospheric density. "We're not just surviving here, we're thriving." Back on Genesis, not everyone embraced this rapid evolution. A faction led by Cultural Preservation Director Amara Okafor warned against losing humanity's essence in the rush to adapt. "What makes us human isn't our DNA or our physical form," she argued passionately before the council. "It's our connections, our cultures, our shared history. If we transform ourselves beyond recognition, what exactly are we fighting to preserve?" The debate divided the fleet. Some habitat vessels became strongholds of traditional human values, maintaining genetic baselines and refusing extreme modifications. Others embraced radical adaptation, their populations developing specialized biological traits for different environments. Admiral Kowalski watched the division with growing concern. "We can't afford to splinter," she told her senior staff. "The Concordat believed our diversity was our weakness. We need to prove that it's our strength." The turning point came unexpectedly. A scout vessel, the Magellan, returned from deep space exploration with alarming news. They had encountered another exiled species, the Vorax, a silicon-based intelligence banished from the Concordat centuries earlier for their own technological transgressions. Unlike humanity, the Vorax had embraced a path of vengeance. They had spent generations building weapons designed specifically to destroy Concordat worlds. And now, their long-range sensors had detected the human exodus. Captain Lian Zhang of the Magellan delivered her report directly to the Leadership Council. "They see us as potential allies or potential competitors," she explained. "Either way, they're coming to assess us. Their technology is unlike anything we've seen. They've had centuries to develop outside Concordat restrictions." The approaching Vorax fleet forced the divided human factions to make a choice: continue their philosophical debate or unite against a potential threat. In a tense council session, even the most conservative traditionalists recognized the need for humanity's advanced adaptations. "We don't need to become something inhuman," Director Okafor conceded, "but we do need to become more than we were." Dr. Chen's team worked tirelessly, combining the best defensive technologies from both traditional and evolutionary factions. When the Vorax arrived 3 weeks later, they found not a scattered refugee fleet, but a unified human force with capabilities that surprised even them. The first contact was tense, but ultimately peaceful. The Vorax had expected to find either potential servants or rivals to be eliminated. Instead, they discovered something they hadn't encountered before: a species that had managed to evolve without losing its essential nature. "They fear you," the Vorac's ambassador told Admiral Kowalski during their first formal meeting. "The Concordat, that's why they exiled you. Not for what you did, but for what they sensed you could become." As the first year of exile came to a close, humanity had established 7 permanent habitats in star systems ignored by the Concordat. The forced exodus had become the catalyst for unprecedented growth. Free from external restrictions, human technology developed in directions that would have been impossible under Concordat oversight. And in Dr. Chen's secure laboratory aboard Genesis, the quantum resonance drive, a propulsion system that would redefine the very concept of space travel, pulsed with its first successful test activation. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was about to change everything. The Ascension. 5 years after the exile, humanity's scattered outposts had grown into a thriving network of colonies. What began as desperate survival had evolved into something the Concordat strategists had never anticipated: a civilization freed from the constraints of planetary thinking. Dr. Sophia Chen stood in the observation dome of the research station Archimedes, watching as the first production model quantum resonance drive was installed in the explorer vessel Odyssey. Unlike conventional propulsion systems that pushed vessels through space, the QR drive created localized folds in spacetime, allowing ships to essentially skip across vast distances. "Final calibration complete," her chief engineer reported. "Field stabilizers are operating at 98% efficiency." Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in her usually reserved expression. "Prepare for first official transit. Target: the Helios cluster." The Helios cluster lay 37 light-years from their position, a journey that would have taken traditional human ships over a decade, even with their most advanced conventional drives. The Odyssey disappeared in a subtle ripple of distorted space and reappeared at its destination 17 seconds later. "Transit successful," came the delayed transmission. "Spatial coordinates match target exactly. No system strain detected. The Helios cluster is ours." The quantum resonance drive changed everything. Within months, humanity had expanded its reach to star systems that would have taken generations to reach before. The psychological impact was profound. Humans no longer thought of themselves as exiles, but as explorers, unfettered by the artificial boundaries the Concordat had established. Not all these explorations were peaceful. In the Rigel Expanse, a region known for lawlessness, even within Concordat space, a human survey team encountered their first hostile contact since leaving known space. The Scourge, a collective of diverse species who preyed on isolated colonies and trade vessels, detected the human presence and saw what they believed was an easy target: refugees with valuable technology. What they encountered instead was humanity's evolved defense systems. Commander Eli Mbeke, now captain of the defense vessel Sentinel, coordinated the response. His body, adapted through 5 generations of nanotechnology enhancement, processed information faster than any baseline human could comprehend. His neural implants communicated directly with his ship's systems, eliminating the delay between thought and action. "They're targeting our communication arrays," he noted calmly as the first Scourge vessels opened fire. "Predictable. Respond with pattern delta." The Sentinel's hull rippled as adaptive defense systems absorbed and redirected the energy from the attacker's weapons. Specialized countermeasures identified the Scourge technology and adapted in real time, turning their own systems against them. The battle lasted less than 14 minutes. When it ended, the Scourge fleet had been neutralized without a single human casualty. More importantly, the engagement had provided invaluable data on previously unknown weapons technology. "They're scavengers," Mbeke reported to Admiral Kowalski afterward. "Their technology is cobbled together from a dozen different species, but some of it is impressive, particularly their cloaking systems." The encounter reinforced what humanity's leadership had suspected. The galaxy beyond Concordat space was far more diverse and dangerous than they had been led to believe. They would need to accelerate their development even further. The breakthrough came 8 years into the exile. A deep exploration team led by Captain Lian Zhang, discovered something unprecedented in an ancient star system near the galactic core, a megastructure of clearly artificial origin, abandoned for what appeared to be millions of years. "It's not just a construct," John reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "It's a library, a technological archive of a civilization that appears to have transcended physical form entirely. The structure, which humanity named the Nexus, contained knowledge that transformed human understanding of physics, biology, and consciousness itself. Translation took years, even with the most advanced AI systems, but each decoded segment opened new possibilities." Dr. Chen led the research team personally. "They called themselves the Precursors," she explained to the Leadership Council. "They evolved to a point where biological and technological existence merged completely. Then they moved beyond our dimensional understanding entirely. The precursor technology allowed humanity to make their most ambitious leap yet. On a desolate world designated Nova Prime, terraforming systems inspired by precursor designs began transforming an uninhabitable rock into a garden world in months rather than centuries." Director Amara Okafor, who had once feared humanity's transformation, now embraced their new path. She established cultural centers on each major colony, ensuring that human art, literature, music, and philosophy evolved alongside technology. "We're not losing our humanity," she told a gathering of cultural representatives. "We're fulfilling it. Our ancestors dreamed of reaching the stars. We're making those dreams reality." 15 years after the exile, humanity had established 23 permanent colonies across 17 star systems. Their technology had advanced beyond anything the Concordat had deemed possible. Their society had evolved into a networked civilization that wasn't bound to planets or even fixed habitats. And then, inevitably, they were discovered. A Concordat scientific vessel, charting unexplored regions far from established space lanes, detected unusual energy signatures from what they had believed was an uninhabited system. What they found was Nova Prime, now a thriving world with a population of 3 million humans. Admiral Kowalski, her body kept youthful through targeted cellular regeneration, received the alert from their deep space monitoring network. "They found us," she informed the council. A Concordat science vessel observed Nova Prime for approximately 22 minutes before jumping to hyperspace. Based on their trajectory, they're returning directly to Concordat space. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some advocated immediate relocation to more distant systems. Others suggested a preemptive diplomatic approach. A few even proposed demonstrating their new military capabilities as a deterrent. Dr. Chen, now serving as Strategic Development Director, offered a different perspective. "This isn't a crisis," she said calmly. "It's an opportunity. We've spent 15 years preparing for this moment. We're not the refugees they exiled. We're something new entirely." The decision was made. Instead of hiding or preparing for conflict, humanity would reveal itself on its own terms. A delegation led by Director General Wang, his consciousness now housed in a body that was part biological, part advanced synthetic, would travel directly to the Concordat Central Worlds. The delegation arrived in spectacular fashion. Their vessel, the Prometheus I, simply appeared in orbit around the Concordat capital world of harmonious unity, bypassing all defense systems and detection grids using technologies derived from precursor principles. The message they broadcast was simple. 15 years ago, you cast us out. Today we return, not to rejoin you, but to introduce ourselves properly. We are humanity, and we offer our hand in peace despite our history." The Concordat Council, faced with technology that rendered their most advanced defense systems obsolete, had little choice but to receive the human delegation. The meeting was broadcast throughout Concordat space, the exiled species returning not as suppliants, but as equals or perhaps even superiors. "You feared what we might become," Wang told the assembled representatives of 57 species. "Your fear was justified, but not in the way you imagined. We have indeed transformed ourselves, but not into destroyers or conquerors. The evidence was undeniable. The humans presented technological and biological advancements that the Concordat's most advanced scientific minds could barely comprehend. Sustainable energy systems, medical technologies that could cure diseases considered untreatable, agricultural methods that could transform barren worlds into abundant gardens. We do not seek readmission to the Concordat, Wang continued. We have established our own civilization in regions you deemed worthless. We have encountered species unknown to you, and made both allies and adversaries. We have discovered ancient knowledge you never found in millennia of exploration. The final revelation silenced even the most skeptical Concordat representatives. Humanity had located 7 other species the Concordat had exiled over the centuries. Rather than forming an alliance of vengeance as the Vorax had once contemplated, they had established a new cooperative, the Alliance of Free Species, bound by principles of mutual advancement rather than restrictive protocols. Today, we formalize diplomatic relations between the Concordat and the Alliance, Wang concluded, not as supplicants, but as equals. The stars have room for many civilizations following different paths. We need not be enemies to be different. As the human delegation departed, leaving behind technological gifts that would transform Concordat society, Admiral Kowalski and Dr. Chen watched the broadcast from their command center near the galactic core. They're afraid of us, Kowalski observed. Chen nodded. Yes, but also fascinated. Fear and curiosity. The same emotions that have driven humanity throughout our history. Will they try to move against us? The Admiral asked. Eventually, perhaps. Established powers rarely welcome new ones without resistance. But we'll be ready. Chen turned her attention to a holographic display showing the latest data from the precursor archives, information suggesting the ancient race had not simply transcended physical form, but had discovered pathways to entirely new universes. The Concordat gave us a gift when they cast us out, she said quietly. They forced us to become more than we were, and we're only just beginning. 17 years after humanity's exile, their colonies flourished across 28 star systems. Their technology continued to evolve in directions no Concordat species had imagined possible. And from their central research facility near the mysterious nexus, Dr. Sophia Chen and her team prepared to test the prototype of a device that would allow humanity to explore not just distant stars, but entirely different dimensions of reality. The species that had been exiled as a dangerous contamination had become something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. Not conquerors, not refugees, but pioneers of a new kind of civilization. One that would ultimately transform not just themselves, but the very nature of what was possible. The banishment meant to end humanity had instead unleashed it.